A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast because that war is going in the wrong direction.
President Donald Trump had harsh words for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Thursday, February 20th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. In social media posts and speeches this week, President Trump has called Zelensky a dictator and pushed false claims about Ukraine's war with Russia. On Tuesday, he falsely said that Ukraine started that war, even though it was Russia that invaded Ukraine in 2022. Trump was echoing the Russian position that it was pushed into the conflict due to Ukraine's attempts to join the NATO military alliance. And since Tuesday, Trump has doubled down on his attacks on Zelensky. Here he is speaking at a Saudi-backed investment conference in Florida yesterday.
But think of it, a modestly successful comedian. President Zelensky talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won, that never had to start and never would have started if I was president, not even a chance.
That $350 billion figure is incorrect. The U.S. has appropriated just over $174 billion for Ukraine. Trump's attacks reflect a major shift in U.S. relations with Russia, and they've angered Ukrainians and their allies. Zelensky hit back yesterday, saying that Trump, quote, lives in a disinformation space. Our fact-checkers took a close look at all of Trump's claims. You can find a link to that in our newsletter today. Find that in our show notes. The Trump administration is scrambling to fix mistaken federal firings. That's number 2. Trump's team is rushing to downsize the 2.3 million-person civilian workforce. But the turmoil is happening so quickly that mistakes keep being made, and now officials are rushing to undo some firings. For example, the Post reported today that some agencies fired probationary employees who had accepted Trump's deferred resignation offer. That was supposed to guarantee pay through September. And a push to fire thousands over President's Day weekend led to widespread errors. USDA is currently trying to reverse the mistaken firings of officials working on the U.S. response to the bird flu outbreak. But despite the confusion, the cuts continue. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered senior leaders at the Pentagon to develop plans for cutting 8% from the defense budget in each of the next 5 years. Number 3. Hamas handed over the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages. This morning was the first release of hostages from Gaza who weren't returning home alive. The 4 caskets were displayed on a stage, then transferred to Red Cross vehicles to be taken to Israeli forces. At the time of this recording, their identities have not been confirmed by Israel, but Hamas said the handover would include 3 members of the Bibas family. They are a mother and 2 young children whose images have become powerful symbols in Israel in the wake of Hamas's October 7, 2023 attacks. Hamas alleges that they were killed by an Israeli airstrike, but has not provided evidence for that claim. Israel is expected to release Palestinian prisoners in exchange under the terms of its ceasefire deal with Hamas. Number 4. Delta Airlines is offering $30,000 to passengers who were on a jet that crashed this week. On Monday, a Delta plane crashed and flipped upside down on a snowy runway in Toronto. Amazingly, all 80 people on board survived, including 4 crew members and 76 passengers. Now, the airline is offering those passengers a hefty payment. Delta says it comes with no strings attached and will not affect the rights of anyone who accepts it. The cause of the crash is still not known. And in other airline news, major U.S. carriers are seeking to overturn Biden-era rules that offered protections to passengers with disabilities. Those rules required airlines to provide additional training and increased penalties when carriers mishandled wheelchairs and other devices. Archaeologists discovered the tomb of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. That's our fifth story. Egyptian officials announced the stunning discovery this week. Inscriptions indicate that the tomb was the burial place of King Thutmose II. He ruled for about half a decade, some 3,500 years ago. Thutmose II is perhaps best known for the events set into motion by his death around age 30. His wife and half-sister Hatshepsut ruled after him, first as regent and then as one of the few female pharaohs. His mummy, which had already been discovered, was likely removed from his tomb when it flooded shortly after his death. But it's still an amazing discovery. It's the first time a pharaoh's tomb has been found since King Tutankhamun's resting place was uncovered in 1922. You can take a look at Thutmose's tomb in our newsletter. Apple's cheapest phone just got more expensive. That's number 6. Yesterday, Apple announced that the relatively affordable iPhone SE, which had cost $429, has been remodeled into the iPhone 16e. That costs $599. The new phone will have Apple's artificial intelligence features. Those include AI-suggested proofreading of emails and options to digitally erase unwanted elements or people from photos. Apple's AI features have been polarizing. One feature offered summaries of iPhone news notifications, which were sometimes wildly wrong. Apple is also struggling to adapt to changing habits that have hurt iPhone sales. The company is losing ground in China, one of its most important markets. And people are holding on to their smartphones longer. But they're also increasingly moving toward having fancier phones. So Apple hopes the more expensive 16e will be a hit. And at number 7, a mysterious doomsday fish washed ashore in Mexico. A husband and wife were strolling along a lovely beach in Baja California when they spotted something strange peeking at them from the water.
Oh my God, Dan!
What are you doing? What are you doing?
That's an oarfish.
The glistening, wriggly creature was an oarfish. That's a kind of deep-sea creature that can grow up to 36 feet long, though this one was a lot smaller. Oarfish are rarely spotted on the surface. In folklore, their appearance can mean one of two things: a good omen or a harbinger of doom. So it's kind of like an aquatic glass half full or empty situation. The fish tend to be found ashore only after storms or when they are dead or dying. This one may have been infected. The guy that filmed it said it looked a little confused. So go ahead and take your pick if this sighting is good news or bad news. And make sure you take a look at this very weird fish in our newsletter today. All right, you're all caught up. For your next listen, check out the latest episode of Post Reports, our afternoon news podcast. It dives deeper into Trump's recent conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin and his approach to ending the war in Ukraine. Find Post Reports wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to leave it a nice review or rating. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.